It was a quiet Friday night when Ria found herself alone at home. Her parents had gone out of town for the weekend, and her younger brother was staying over at a friend's house. At first, the idea of having the whole house to herself seemed exciting. No rules, no curfews, just absolute peace and freedom. But as the night grew darker and the shadows stretched longer across the floor, that sense of excitement began to fade, replaced by something else. Something that just felt wrong. Ria sat on the couch, the blue light of her phone screen illuminating her face as she scrolled endlessly. The house was so quiet. The only sound was the faint, low hum of the refrigerator. Even the neighbor's dog, which usually barked at everything, was silent tonight. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, its ghostly fingers brushing lightly against the window panes. Everything seemed still, almost too still. Around 10 p.m., she heard the first sound, faint creak from upstairs. She froze, her thumb hovering over her screen. It was probably just the house settling, she told herself. Old houses make strange noises at night. It was nothing to worry about. But then the noise came again, louder this time, sharper, like a deliberate step on an old floorboard. Her heart began to pound against her ribs, a nervous drumbeat in the silence. Trying to shake off the growing unease, she turned up the TV volume, forcing herself to laugh at the sitcom she was watching. But the feeling of being watched just wouldn't go away. It was a prickling sensation on the back of her neck, making her skin crawl. Her eyes kept darting toward the dark staircase, half expecting to see someone or something standing there in the shadows. A few minutes later, she heard it again. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, methodical. They were coming down the hallway, right above her head. Ria's blood ran cold. She snatched the remote and muted the TV, straining her ears to listen. The footsteps stopped. Complete silence once again filled the air, so thick it felt like it was pressing in on her, making it hard to breathe. Maybe it was the house settling after all. Maybe it was just her imagination running wild in the empty house. But then, a door upstairs slammed shut with a deafening bang that made her jump from the couch, her phone clattering to the floor. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. She needed to hear a familiar voice. She called her mum, but the call went straight to voicemail. She tried her dad, next same thing. The thought of calling the police crossed her mind, but she hesitated. What if it was nothing? They would think she was crazy. She had to be sure. Steeling her nerves, she decided to check it out herself, arming herself with a heavy metal flashlight from the kitchen drawer. Ria began to slowly climb the stairs. Each step creaked ominously under her feet, the sound echoing in the silent house. Her heart was pounding so loudly she could hear the blood rushing in her ears. When she reached the top, the hallway stretched ahead of her, a long tunnel of darkness. All the bedroom doors were closed, except for one, her parents' room, which was cracked open just a sliver. She paused at the top of the stairs, her breath catching in her throat. "Hello?" she called out, her voice barely a whisper. There was no answer, only the suffocating silence. Gathering her courage, She crept toward the door and pushed it open, the flashlight beam cutting a nervous path across the room. Everything looked normal. The bed was neatly made. The curtains were drawn tight against the night. She was about to sigh in relief, to laugh at her own paranoia, when the flashlight suddenly flickered and went out. "Oh, not now," she whispered, shaking it frantically. It blinked back to life for a single, terrifying moment, just long enough for her to see it. A shape in the vanity mirror, a dark figure, standing right behind her. Rhea spun around, her heart leaping into her throat, but there was no one there. The room was empty. She could feel her breathing quicken, her skin turning cold and clammy. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body was frozen in place, paralyzed by pure terror. Then she heard it, a faint guttural whisper, so close to her ear that she felt the cold air shift against her skin. "Why are you in my house?" That was all it took. The spell was broken. Rhea bolted out of the room, down the stairs, nearly tripping over her own feet in her blind panic. She didn't stop for shoes, didn't stop for a jacket. She grabbed her phone from the couch and ran, bursting out the front door into the icy night air. Barefoot, she stumbled onto the front lawn, gasping for breath, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. Sobbing, she called her neighbor, Mrs. Khan, who lived across the street. Within minutes, the kind, elderly woman was there, her face etched with concern, a robe pulled tight around her. Seeing Rhea's terrified state, she didn't hesitate. Together, they went back inside the house. The lights were on now, casting a normal, warm glow everywhere. Everything looked just as it should now. Doors were open. No windows were broken. No signs of anyone else. Mrs. Khan was thorough. She checked every room, every closet, every dark corner. But she found nothing. No intruder. No sign of a break-in. Yet something felt different. The air inside the house felt heavy, thick with an unseen presence. Before leaving to let Rhea get some rest, Mrs. Khan turned to her, her expression serious. "You should not stay here alone tonight," she said softly. "Sometimes houses remember things that we don't." Rhea spent a sleepless night at Mrs. Khan's house, the chilling whisper replaying over and over in her mind. The next morning, when her parents finally came home, she told them everything. They tried to calm her down, assuring her it was probably just her overactive imagination, a bad dream brought on by being alone. But when her father went upstairs to check the house one last time, he called her up to their bedroom. His voice was strained. "Rhea," he said, pointing toward the floor next to the bed. "Did you do this?" There, etched faintly but clearly into the wooden floorboards, were words that had been carved by something sharp. They read, "Why are you in my house?" Her parents stared in stunned disbelief, but Rhea knew. She knew what she had heard, what she had felt. It wasn't her imagination. From that night on, she refused to be alone in the house ever again. The whisper never returned, but sometimes, when the house grew quiet late at night, she thought she could still hear them. Faint footsteps, pacing slowly down the upstairs hallway, stopping right outside her door, just waiting. Thank you so much for joining me for this chilling story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe and see you next time.